Welcome back inside the lab, everybody. That is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Today's edition is taking a look at one of the hottest topics in fantasy circles, and that is the top 5 rookies in the NHL making a fantasy impact. You know we got the big time bets ready to roll, baby. So let's get this Tuesday money.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to your source for fantasy hockey news. It is the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast alongside my esteemed co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. It is your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Thank you for joining us for today's episode, and thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. We continue to be free and available across all platforms you find your favorite and hottest content, including YouTube. So keep doing your thing and keep showing us that love, because Steele and I aren't slowing down. Steele can't stop, won't stop, baby. And on today's episode, it's more of what you can expect. But this time we are looking at the top 5 rookies in the NHL, the top 5 threats for this Calder Trophy so far this season. Steele, you and I talk quickly off air. I think some of our listeners who are loyal supporters are going to know who we have at the top of this list. We're going to get to big-time bets for Tuesday's 7-game board as well. But look, Steele, finding these young players, whether they're the obvious ones or not, can really take your fantasy squad over the top. And I think you actually mentioned it in some of our mock drafts. It's sometimes worth taking a shot on some of these rookies at the end of your draft, even though there's bigger names out there, because now, look, they're making a name for themselves and becoming a big name in their own way. Let's start it. Kick it off, my friend. Who you looking at? I'm intrigued for this list that you have. Top 5 rookies in the game.
Yeah, it was a little bit hard trying to get the top 5 guys into this ranking for me.
Yep.
There's a lot of guys out there that I would have loved on my list, but they're just outside the top 5. So for me, at number 5 is Montreal Canadiens defenseman Kaiden Guhle, who for me has been absolutely fantastic so far this season. 20 years young. He's turning 21 very, very soon, but rookie season so far, 1 goal, 9 points in 24 games. He's already up to 20 minutes of ice time on average so far this year. 21 shots, 42 blocks, 53 hits, and those blocks and hits is what I'm going to highlight for Guhle so far this year. He's a really big, well-positioned defenseman, and for anybody who steps into his wheelhouse, they will be absolutely obliterated along the boards, because that's the type of game this guy plays. He has a little bit of offense to him as well, occasionally, but it's really the defensive-minded defenseman in Kaiden Guhle that has really stuck out to me. And again, if he can get a little bit more points, that's just an extra bonus, but it's the blocks, the hits, and that physicality that I really like a part of his game so far. Again, he's on a Montreal Canadiens team that isn't really producing right now in the standings-wise, but again, Guhle for me has been exceptionally well.
Interesting angle that you're taking here, because in some formats, he's not going to bring the same kind of value with a lot of the other players on these lists. But in Keeper Dynasty and Banger Leagues, he is a piece that you most definitely want to be targeting because of that sandpaper he plays with, Steele. And I think you mentioned the inability of the Montreal Canadiens to sometimes get it done offensively. That has nothing to do with a rookie defenseman who is just coming into his own. But you bring up the minutes played, and I think on most other teams, he's not getting nearly that much look. So that's the one chink in the argument that I'm trying to put against you for your 5th selection. But let me just hit you with my 5th selection, because I'm feeling what you're bringing up here with a good young defenseman who I think, Steele, is just getting started as well in terms of his ceiling. So let's see what happens with him. You know, I got to go back to my guns. And a couple of the players on my list, Steele, are guys that I've talked about at length for the last number of months. So, I'm trying to take my credit and pump my own tires. Pyotr Kochetkov. He has been sensational so far for the Carolina Hurricanes. And I know what people will say. He is on a very good defensive-minded Carolina Hurricanes team in front of him. That's a fact. But 5, 1, and 3 and a shutout. 2.27 goals against and a 920 save percentage, Steele. He's only lost once in regulation since getting a good run out. The future is bright with the Carolina Hurricanes net. With this young Russian, he's also proven that he can get it done in the KHL, in the AHL. These are professional leagues. These aren't minor leagues. I think at 6'3", 190 centimeters for the Canadians out there, this guy is just a fun goaltender to watch. And I'll throw this out there, Steele. Currently, he is at plus 3,000 for the Calder Trophy. That right there is worth a $5 bet, because if he continues to get the run out here, I know Freddie Anderson's going to come back. He is on my list for great rookie players in the NHL.
And I knew he would be on your list. That's why he's not on mine. I knew you were going to bring him up, and well so, because he's been absolutely phenomenal for the Carolina Hurricanes, stepping in the absence of some of the Freddie Anderson's injury. Yep. The fourth guy I have on my list comes from the Buffalo Sabres, and it's not Jack Quinn, actually. It's actually JJ Peterka, who we haven't really talked about a lot on this podcast. We've highlighted a lot of those young talents they have: Peyton Krebs, Jack Quinn, Tage Thompson, Rasmus Dahlin, a whole lot more. Dylan Cousins as well. But JJ Peterka has been so far phenomenal for the Sabres. He's in the top 6 forward group, playing with Jack Quinn and Dylan Cousins on that right-hand side. He's up to 6 goals, 14 points in 25 games. Again, you talk about another guy who, when you look at players in their average ice time, I know you for certain, you like to look at a guy who's playing over 15 and a half, 16 minutes. You're willing to take a shot on them. He's getting this done in just over 14 minutes of ice time.
Impressive.
6 goals, 14 points. He's on the second power play unit as well. And the fact that he's playing with a guy like Dylan Cousins, who you and I have talked about a little bit over the last week, who's now coming into his own as well, alongside Jack Quinn, who's had a couple of really nice games the last 5 games. For me, Peterka, he's got a really great scoring touch, knows where to go to find those open areas on the ice, and he's putting himself in proper positions to bury those opportunities as well. And again, at 20 years young, he looks pretty good right now.
I appreciate these breakdowns, and I can tell you've been doing your research, and I can also tell you've been watching way too much Buffalo Sabres hockey. So reel yourself back in here, babe, because there's a lot of other teams you could be watching. But kudos to you, because I'll say this before I move on to my fourth piece. We're going to get to the break. We're going to get to our top 3, and then, of course, big-time bets. This Buffalo Sabres team is starting to really impress me. And I think you can give me a little bit more credit for one of the first things I said to you as co-hosts. Take a look at these Buffalo Sabres peripheral fantasy pieces. And now all of a sudden this team is a top 5 scoring team in the NHL. And if not for the ragtag goaltending situation, I think they would be, knocking on the doorstep for a playoff spot. And yeah, I'm saying it because they have 11 wins this season. They only have 1 less than Detroit, Florida, and Montreal. This Atlantic division is tight, Steele, and getting tighter. So I expect the Buffalo Sabres, Rasmus Dahlin, throwing his body around, getting it done offensively. We could have a whole Sabres episode very quickly. And I'll do this one very quickly because I think perhaps the top 3 for both of us here in this rookie discussion is where the meat and potatoes lie. Calen Addison for the Minnesota Wild deserves some love. Number 1, he's leading the NHL in rookie points on the power play with 10. Now he's getting to anchor that power play in Minnesota. Zuccarello, Kaprizov, Joel Ekseranek. Let's have a look at Calen Addison here, because with 2 goals and 12 assists so far, Steele, second rounder, 53rd overall, good Lethbridge Hurricane player. I like what's going on with this good young player, Steele, and he is right up there for rookie scoring. And if you want me to check in on the odds, again, very juicy, even sitting behind your boy Guhle. Have a look at Addison at plus 2,000. Little sprinkle now, might be big time later in the season.
Yeah, he's I'm going to definitely get to him in the top 3 for me. He's been absolutely phenomenal as well. I appreciate you bringing up Addison.
Okay, good. Then I'm glad I didn't go too deep, and I'm really glad that I'm about to go deep about our friends at Simply Safe, because it's the holiday season and it's time to get serious about protecting your loved ones. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Simply Safe. the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, Steele and I believe that you should have your family at the forefront, being the safest, especially over the holidays. This season, give yourself and your family the gift of peace of mind and protection with the #1 rated home security system, Simply Safe. And right now, the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast is offering all of our listeners, because you are our favorites, 40% off a new security system. Do not put it off. Here is why Steele and I love it. They have you covered with 24/7 around-the-clock monitoring with live agents and customer support staff. Package thefts are up across the country, and now is more important than ever to arm and protect your home and family with Simply Safe's around-the-clock protection. In an emergency, 24/7 professionals are monitoring the situation with Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe. Don't miss your chance to save big on Steele and I's favorite security system. Like I said, get 40% off. That's 40, people, at any new system at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl today. That's simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. There is no safe like Simply Safe.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Please check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and of course, the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode as well. Make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. We appreciate all the love and support out there. Let's get back into the top rookies so far this NHL season, into the top 3. And at number 3, I have your boy Cole Perfetti, who's been sensational on that top line of the Winnipeg Jets, playing alongside Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele. He's up to 4 goals, 16 points on the season right now. He's playing just over 15 minutes of ice time as well.
And
he's
creeping.
It's creeping up there as well. He's on a 5-game point streak right now. A lot of assists out there. The vision on the kid has been phenomenal as well.
Yes,
he's in a high offensive skill with, like I said, excellent vision. One of the things I think he needs to work on is his, 200-foot game, a little bit helping in the defensive zone and back checking. But other than that, he's been so far exceptional for the Jets.
43 shots on net. And I hear you with that two-way game. He is obviously a 20-year-old player. But looking at the takeaway giveaway numbers, Steele, he's still in the positive column, +7 on the takeaway number. Obviously, that doesn't mean much in terms of fantasy value, but it does in terms of his quality. And thank you for bringing up the minutes played again, creeping up there more and more with confidence. And he's playing with 2 very effective pieces. He's getting that combination with Wheeler. He's getting some time with Scheifele. This is everything that I was saying ad nauseum over the offseason, is because of the situation in Winnipeg. He is going to be worth it, and he's already worth it. The vision is there. You mentioned, at times, actually, you talked about your boy Robert Thomas needing to shoot the puck a little bit more. Yeah. I think this guy needs to shoot the puck a lot more, and I think he'll get there. The confidence is going to grow, and I have him higher up on my list, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. Accurate at number 3 for you on your top rookies in the game. Number 3 for me is Logan Thompson. 12-5-0 this season with 2 shutouts, 2.54 goals against, and a .920 save percentage. And if you haven't paid attention, the Vegas Golden Knights are very, very much for real in the Pacific Division, with 37 points sitting atop of it. A lot of that to do with the solid goaltending. Also, shout out Aiden Hill in the backup role. Both have been solid. But Logan Thompson needs some respect on his name, because even for you and I, Steele, coming into this season, we said it a little bit with the Florida Panthers. We said it a little bit with the Dallas Stars. We didn't really know where we were going to put our finger on this Vegas Golden Knights team. They're for real. They're looking dangerous. And now all of a sudden, Logan Thompson, a 6'4" goalie, Steele. I'm talking about my tall goalies because I was one of them myself. Shout out to the Sens, Locked On Sens podcast. He's the second favorite for that Calder Trophy at +550, behind another player we're going to talk about. But I think he's done all the talking on the ice this season and proving he can get it done.
He really has, and he made us eat our own words at the start of the season. That, for me, that was personally where I couldn't figure out where Vegas was going to land come the end of the regular season. If the duo of Logan Thompson and Adin Hill would be productive enough to get them there. And they're doing a really great job so far.
So
He's
far.
been the biggest key piece alongside Jack Eichel for me that have really drove this Vegas
Shout out
Golden
Riley
Knights
Smith
team.
as well.
Riley Smith, but those two for me have been the driving force
Yep.
of this Vegas Golden Knights team. You talk about Calen Addison. Let's get to the meat and potatoes here for me.
Hey,
Calen Addison
break it
at
down.
number 2
Break it
on
down.
the rookie charts for me. 2 goals, 14 points in 24 games. An offensive-minded young defenseman at that. Was nearly a point per game playing in the juniors, and he's showcasing right now that he can do it at a pro level as well. He's
Agreed.
able to be the quarterback on that top power play, like you mentioned, alongside Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Eriksson Ek, and those guys. For me, the one weakness I believe Addison has right now is his size. He's only 5'11". He's 180 pounds. So in the defensive zone, he gets a little bit worked around in those corners and in front of his net. Size is a big matter for him, in the very near future. Obviously, you can't do much about your height, but you can put a little bit more weight on, and that's going to be a factor if he wants to improve his game. But so far, being able to quarterback that power play, the vision he has as well, it's been phenomenal.
Sometimes on this show, Steele, you and I have to separate fantasy quality from what's being done on the ice.
Yeah.
Calen Addison is very much a specific offensive fantasy piece, and what hinders him right now is exactly what you said, and you're seeing it in his minutes played. He's young. Let's see him round his other end of his game into form and really see him explode. I think not enough people are paying attention to this player. So kudos to you and I for having on this list. What is this, the Pump the Tires episode? That's okay. Ride with us, people, because it'll benefit you in the long run. I'm going to keep this one quick, Steele, because we already talked about my boy, Cole Perfetti. I have him at number 2. He is a dark horse and a good odd at plus 950. I'm keeping bringing up these odds. Right now, honestly, all of the players on my list and yours, if you're out there and you got a couple of bucks in the winning column from hopefully listening to our picks, $5 or $10 on every single player that we have mentioned today, it's going to make you some money at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Straight up and down. So go out there and sprinkle across the board on these players. Plus 950 for Cole Perfetti. Steele. He is getting the run out with some really good veteran offensive pieces. Say what you will again about the Jets overall this season. I don't know where they're going to land, but with Connor Hellebuck playing pretty good, Josh Morrissey out of nowhere getting it done this season at an elite level, this Winnipeg Jets team might be knocking around in the playoffs, getting some scoring done, and it will be because of Cole Perfetti. You mentioned a small frame, 5'10", 185 pounds. The vision on this kid is special. With a little bit more confidence, I think he shoots the puck some more. We are going to spout off about big-time bets coming up around the break. But Steele, let's just talk about this number 1 rookie in the NHL. Should we do it now or should we do it after the break?
Let's do it now. Let's get right down to the grid of it. Matty Beniers is number 1 for the both of us. There's no question about that.
Yep.
10 goals, 21 points in 24 games so far for the Seattle Kraken. 48 shots, 17 blocks, 27 hits. And for me, that's what really stuck out is the fact that he's getting in those shooting lanes. He's putting his body on the line, both in front of pucks and, hitting people along the boards or in center ice as well. Mm-hmm. His compete level all over the ice has been absolutely insane to witness every time I watch this kid play. He digs, he fights for the pucks in the corners. He's not afraid to go in those dirty areas. His work ethic shows. His willingness to forecheck and backcheck is above and beyond some of the other rookies we've mentioned so far, excluding the goalies, obviously. But for me, Matty Beniers is the front runner for a good reason. He's showcasing the skill set. He's getting all the opportunities, and he's making the most of those opportunities.
Thank you for bringing up he is the front runner, because he is. And talk about earning the name as, one of the top rookies heading into this season. Owen Power was one of those, and he has disappointed so far.
Yeah.
Yes, he has a whole boatload of apples, but at plus 2,500, or actually, sorry, Owen Power is at plus 2,000. I'm actually not going to sprinkle on Owen Power because guys like Beniers, Thompson, Perfetti, Addison are all worth a shot ahead of him, even the other guys that we mentioned as well. Matty Beniers, though, very quickly, I'm loving this kid's game. Sometimes when the puck touches his stick, special things happen. The one thing I'll say though, Steele, he needs to be better in the faceoff dot. And again, that's not fantasy. It's
Yeah.
just more of my overall takeaway. When I watch him play, it seems like he's losing an awful lot of draws for being a number one center. But he is 20 years old? Just turned 20 years old actually at the start of November. Let's give him some time. And if he's clearly already being able to get it done, and I'll say this, a big reason why the Seattle Kraken are surprising this season, you got to keep your eye on this young player who is both Steele and I's top rookie in the NHL right now and current favorite for that Calder Trophy. So make sure you're tuning in and tapping in because we're going to have a lot more betting breakdowns coming your way, including for Tuesday's board and big time bets.
Big time bets. Make sure you're sprinkling some on those rookies that we talked about, sprinkling some on for these Tuesday bets.
Yep.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. So make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. We appreciate all the love and support out there. We're so close to 700 subscribers. And thank you so much for all of that out there as well.
Yep.
To kick us off, Flip, I was very shocked to see this line here, and I grabbed it right away. I'm hoping that it's still there tomorrow.
Talk to me.
Blackhawks and Devils over 6.5 goals at plus 107 is just calling my name right now. I'm very surprised it was out there. Over 6.5 goals. We know the Devils score at will. The Blackhawks allow a lot of goals as well. That is my first pick of the night.
I don't hate it, Steele. I don't have a ton of background here into this recent matchup, but at first glance, I am hearing you. I also thought you were going to maybe say you're looking at the Chicago Blackhawks on the puck line because I did that the other night. They're playing okay right now. Shout out to Max Domi and some of these very underrated pieces. Max Domi is putting up numbers right now. He almost made my waiver wire list. And anyway, Steele, the over has gone over the total in the last 7 out of 9 Chicago games. I like where you're headed with this. I had to pull that up to support you there right quick. So I'm feeling that pick. People have been chirping some of the picks. That is what we want. Make sure you're on Twitter. Make sure you're in the comments. Let us know because Steele and I, we're working, baby, and we're trying to pay these bills. So that's why I'm going back to the Ottawa Senators, Steele. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with this LA Kings right now. They do have Alex Iafallo returning from injury. That was a miss on my part on waiver wire Monday. Alex Iafallo is going to get some run out with Gabriel Velarde and my boy Adrian Kempe. Take a look at him as an ad. But the LA Kings are allowing a lot of goals. They're in the top 5 in goals allowed. They're cutting $10 million goaltenders that they're paying in Cal Peterson to the AHL. Something's not sitting right with me with these LA Kings, Steele. Give me the Ottawa Senators to continue this mini 2-game run that they're on. We both said that we expect them to be better. Cam Talbot, a big reason for that. Hit me with the Ottawa Senators on the money line tonight. And, in the last couple of games head-to-head, the Ottawa Senators have been pretty solid against this team, including winning the last one 3-2 earlier in November. That's my first pick of the night. Steele Sens on the money line, minus 116.
Yeah, it was definitely one that I was looking at as well. Not in my top 3, but I will be putting some money on that game as well. I'm actually going over back to your boy Cole Perfetti and his Winnipeg Jets. I'm taking the Jets on the money line at plus 105 against these Florida Panthers.
Oh, you got me so hyped. I thought Perfetti anytime point was coming. That's okay, though. Go continue.
Could be as well, but I'm taking the Jets on the money line at plus 105. I think the odds are great. You can make a little bit of money as well, but I just don't really like what I've been seeing from these Florida Panthers recently, even though they've got a ton of talent and they're scoring goals at will. It seems like the goaltending has been awful for me. I've seen so many times this season, Sergei Bobrovsky not living up to that contract. A couple of times, Spencer Knight with the lead, letting teams crawl back into it, and then eventually losing the game in overtime or a shootout over the last 5 of his starts. So I'm going with the Jets on the money line. They've looked really good the past week and a half as well. And Connor Hellebuyck is, again, one of those top 5 goalies so far this season.
I'm feeling this pick, and I'm feeling the Winnipeg Jets juice in general, obviously. And just because you're talking them up, I'm going to sprinkle an anytime assist for Cole Perfetti. That just feels fitting after all of this discussion. We're going to put our money where our mouths are, Steele. which is why I'm also going to hit you with this Toronto Maple Leafs money line at the Dallas Stars, -110. The Toronto Maple Leafs are 8-2 in their last 10 against the Dallas Stars. And what is almost fitting is that we have Jason Robertson going up against Mitch Marner, a 19-game streak, an 18-game streak, two impressive ones, and also somebody better take a serious look at this Jason Robertson streak. Because of Mitch Marner being in Toronto, he is getting so much coverage and earned it. But Jason Robertson has as well. So I hope we get a little bit of both for this Tuesday night, Steele. And if you're not watching any other game, that Dallas-Toronto game is definitely going to be worth one of them. But the Maple Leafs are just rolling right now, Steele.
Yeah.
Brody out, Muzzin out, Jordy Ben out, Morgan Riley out. This group is seriously impressive right now. And I'm fine with riding with them on the road. Also, one of the better road teams in the division. Let me bring that up real quick one time. 7-3-3 this year away from home, only not taking points in 3 games. Maple Leafs on the money line. That's my second pick.
It's a good pick. It's one I had to stay away from just because of how great the Dallas Stars and Leafs have been at the same time.
It's true.
So a little scary for me, but again, can't go wrong with either of those picks. I am picking a player from this game, though.
Hey.
Austin Matthews, anytime assist as my lock.
Oh, anytime assist.
Anytime assist as my lock
like it.
of the night. The kid's been fired so far with the Apples this year. This is the first season so far that he's had more assists than goals. He's got 12 goals and 16 assists. We know that he's been struggling at the beginning of the season up until now with lighting the lamp as usual. But he's been able to find his teammates no problem. Mitch Marner, William Nylander, John Tavares, Michael Bunting, whoever it else might be that's playing alongside with him. He's finding his teammates in the right positions. I'm going with the Austin Matthews anytime assist as my lock of the night.
This is an interesting angle, and I am here for it. And now you got me all kinds of even more fired up because I was heading into tonight feeling some of these bets, and I'm feeling some of yours as well, big time. I hope this is a start of a real nice run for us because last year we finished on a nice tear. And I want to get right back there, Steele, because there is so much hockey left. Ride with us, people. We see you in the DMs asking about picks. We see you on Twitter. Thank you so much for hitting us up. Continue to do so. Steele and I are out here throwing those picks out. And my last one, Steele, I hope you're feeling this one. The St. Louis Blues have been a very intriguing team. No, I'm not betting on them. But this is a situation. They're playing back-to-back in New York. That's a tough back-to-back. Maybe one of the toughest. We don't know what happened in this Monday game. It's still going on. St. Louis at the New York Rangers on Monday. We're recording early. Going into the Isle, Long Island now, playing against the Islanders. I am just feeling this one, Steele, for a New York home win. And when I look at the numbers, the New York Islanders have points in the last 8 games against the St. Louis Blues out of 10. They have played them very tough. This Jordan Binnington situation is weird, and I don't know how to put my finger on it. But what I will do is right now, bet against the St. Louis Blues until I see them right this ship because something is not right in the water, around the water cooler in St. Louis. Give me the New York Islanders on the money line. This St. Louis Blues team is riding an ugly 3-game losing streak, and I'm going to hammer the Islanders as my lock of the night tonight.
Yeah, and a back-to-back against the Rangers and Islanders. I think that's a smart pick, taking the Islanders, especially when they've got Elias Rorkin in the net, stopping the puck at will.
Thank you.
I might have to dabble with that pick as well. Those are the big-time bets and the lock of the night. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Please check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, and the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.